Hi guys, it's Paul here. I'm just going to make a short video today that's going to help you with your outstanding assignment for my module HIGH1031. Okay, so you've all done your exam. Well done on that. If you wish to find out your marks, you have to give Freddie a ring. The exam was marked anonymously, just with numbers, so I don't know who got what marks. So Freddie has all the marks for you, and hopefully by now he will have second marked the exams. Okay, so the outstanding piece of work you have for me is the assignment. And if you go to my Moodle folder, the information you require about the assignment is here in the section Assignment Upload. This is the assignment Excel spreadsheet that you're going to be working on, and this hyperlink here will take you to an upload site on Moodle, where after you've done your work you can upload the assignment for marking. First thing I want to do is go to the module handbook, which is the second document in my folder, and just draw one or two things to your attention. One of the things you're going to need to do for this assignment is get some information from your work placements, and this is to meet the module aim of applying the knowledge and skills you learnt in the module to a business setting. Okay, we have this module aim, and we have to make sure that you meet it. So Freddie this year has insisted that part of the assessment relates to information you gather from your work placement. Okie dokie. If we scroll down a little bit further, you'll notice that for the assignment, the proportion of marks for the overall module is 60%. So 60% of your marks for the module come from your assignment. You've already done the exam, and that's 40% of your marks. But the outstanding assignment, which, if you notice here, look, is due on the 14th of May, which is a month today, 30 days from today, that this outstanding piece of work is 60% of your mark for the module. So you must submit a good piece of work here. Okie dokie, the assignment itself, the assignment brief is included in the module handbook. One or two of you were asking where the assignment brief is. It's actually appended to the module handbook. It's in the same document, okay? Here's the assignment brief for the coursework. The coursework's in two sections. The first is a business scenario or a business proposal which you're going to write for your work placement, although it won't be given to your work placement, but it'll be written on data from your work placement. This is half the marks for the assignment, okay? The maximum length for this report is 1,500 words. And basically, what you need to do is obtain some data from your work placement, which ideally is at the case level. At the case level. Let me just show you what I mean by that. If we just go here for a second. This information here on the left is case level data. Here you have parish by shift by amount. Okay, parish shift amount, and each row is an instance of a different parish by shift by amount. This is case level data. What we don't need, this is case level data as well. What we don't need is summary data. In other words, a balance sheet or just 2 or 3 figures that represent averages. We actually need you to obtain data presented in rows. So every row is a person, or every row is a month, or every row is a quarter, or every row is an account. That's the level of information we need. And if you have category data, here we have parish and shift, that's fine. But we also want to see some measure, some number. There might be several columns with numbers. So every column will be a measure and every row will be a case. That's the kind of arrangement we want for your work placement data. Okay. So in the report, which will be a Word document of around about 1,000 to 1,500 words, about a side and a half of typed A4, you need to look at the data, use your judgment, that's bringing to bear all the information, all the techniques you've learned today through the course, and point out the strengths and weaknesses of the measures that you've been given, the data you've been given, and make suggestions how to improve the data. Okay, so you might want to mention the types of data in the report, in the spreadsheet you've been given, the levels of measurement. You might want to talk about measures of central tendency. You might want to talk about outlying data. You can even use, do you remember we used conditional formatting to highlight the outliers? If the data has come from a survey, if it's a company survey, a staff survey, you might want to talk about some of the weaknesses and strengths of survey data. You might want to talk about the accuracy of data, whether the data has a high level of variance. You might want to present the standard deviation. If that's high in comparison to the mean, then the data is spread about the average. If there's missing data, if there are outlying data points, these need to be mentioned. You might want to plot the data onto a graph. You might want to show skew. If there are several measures, you might want to put several measures on one graph. So it's just a little report written by yourselves that look at the data you've been given, the strengths and weaknesses of the data, and some of you just make some suggestions using your judgment as to how the data can be improved or understood. If you want to undertake t-test or chi-square analyses of the data to show where significant differences lie, so much the better. That report is half the mark for the assignment. Okay. If you want to send me a draft of that, the business report, you can do. I won't accept drafts of the Excel work, which we're going to go on to now. But if you want to send me a draft of what you've written for this part of the assignment, I'll have a look at it for you. Okay. What I'm going to talk about for the rest of the video are the 4 spreadsheet tasks in part B of the assignment here. Okay. So the first part is the business report, and the second part is the Excel spreadsheet. This is found here. Look. HIGH1031 2016-2017 Assignment 1. This spreadsheet is active, and this is the spreadsheet you use. So if I just open it, notice we have 4 tasks. 1 is a pivot table, 2 is descriptives, 3 is a goal seek task, and 4 is a data presentation or graph task. Now I've changed the figures, so don't think that I'm going to show you how to do things exactly, okay? These figures have been changed for the purposes of this morning. Let's look at the pivot table then. Notice we have 3 columns of data. Parish, can never say that word, parish, shift and revenue. Now you'll notice that revenue is in numbers, or in this case in pounds, and these 2 items here are category data. We have parish and shift, these are category data. Okay, so 2 categories and a measure. And the task is to create a pivot table on 4 separate sheets, copying and pasting cross tabulations to show the following: total revenue by parish, average revenue by shift, the number of shifts by parish, urban-rural divide by total revenue. This is all very straightforward, and we can do this now. I'll do 1 or 2 of these, and then you'll get the idea. If we need to show total revenue by shift, the first thing we do, we need to make a pivot table. We've done this. Go to Insert, Pivot Table. It'll highlight all the data for you, and click OK. All right. And we can bring, let me just check what's required again, total revenue by parish. Here we have parish. Bring parish down into your rows here. And revenue is put over here. Look in the sigma values, this box here. And here we have the sum, the total revenue by parish. Notice the formatting is incorrect. This is shown as numbers. So if we just highlight the cells, right click, format cells. My machine's taking a while to work, and it's now not responding. So I'm just going to pause the video for a second before I waste video. Okay, sorry about that. We need to format cells and go to currency into sterling. Okay. So that's one pivot table. We can copy the data there, copy that, put it over here. And that's our first pivot table. Our second pivot table is average revenue by shift. Very simple. We go back to our pivot table. This time we need to right click, bring up the field list. We have parish here. We just get rid of parish by putting it into the report filter and bring down shift. And this time here, rather than sum, we need average. So in the sigma values where we have sum of revenue over here, if we just click on there, go to value field settings, and this time we can bring up the average over here. Look, at the moment we're showing sum, we need average, and here we have the average shift, the average shift revenue. Copy that, and that can now go there. That's our second pivot table. We'll do one more, look. Let's do this one here. Urban rural divide by total revenue. And I've given you a hint. Group parishes into urban, St Helier, St Saviour, and rural, the remainder. So show field list, get rid of shift, bring parish down. Notice here we're on average still, so we need to go to sum, which is total. And here we need to group. Okay, if your pivot table doesn't let you sort, no, mine has done. Okay, so St Helier and St Saviour are urban and the rest are rural. So if I highlight, right click and group. So I'm just going to just sort this out for a second. Just bear with me one moment. I'm not a great fan of the new appearances of pivot tables, so I'm just going to change mine slightly. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. Okay, and the remaining three parishes, right click and group. So now I've created two groups. I'm going to call this first group urban, and the second group I'm going to call rural. And I can just get rid of this first group here. This can go back here. And now I have urban, rural by total income, and that can go over there as well. Okay, that's all that's required. Okie dokie. And there's one more task, which is the number of shifts by parish, but I'll let you do that. Okay. So 3 columns of data, 2 which are category, 1 which is measured or scale level of measurement. You create a pivot table, and you must just be careful here, look, where we have sum and then average. Okay, sum, field settings, average. Just make sure your aggregate and your summated values are correct with relation to the actual question. Okay, that's pretty easy. We've done plenty of pivot tables in class. Let's go on to the descriptives. We have 2 measures here. Look, measure 1 and measure 2, branch 1 and branch 2. The 2 data sets show the number of new accounts opened by 2 branches over a 50-week period. So if you scroll down, there ought to be 50 rows of data. Okay, 50 measures, 50 weeks. And here we have accounts opened by branch 1 and accounts opened by branch 2. And the level of measurement in each case is scale, because you can have 0 customers up into infinity number with equal gaps between. Using the data analysis descriptors function to determine if one branch is attracting more customers than the other. In your answer, discuss the shape, direction, and dispersion of each of the data sets distribution. You may use a graph to illustrate your answer if you wish. Okay, so we can use a graph to illustrate our answer. First of all, we need to bring up the descriptives option. Sorry, the spreadsheet keeps hanging. Okie dokie, so we need to bring up if we go to data, so I don't have the data option, just bear me one moment, okay? Okay guys, sorry, it's been a bit of a mess up here. I've forgotten that this is my wife's computer, and this version of Excel is no longer supported by our license, so we're in the process of upgrading to Excel 2013, I think. So what I'm missing over here, do you remember in class we've had to bring up the little window here that enables you to do things like t-test and chi-square, whatever, the data analysis function by going into the menu here. Do you remember we've done this? Excel options, add-ins, and then we click on Go, and then we click Analysis Toolpack and Analysis Toolpack VBA, and then we click OK. At the moment, it's not allowing me to bring this function up. When the function does come up, sorry, just get rid of that, if it will let me. There's a little window here where you can choose a range of statistics options. We've used this in class many times. What you need to do when this pops up is use the descriptors function, highlight the data, and then you'll get an output window that gives you all the descriptive analyses that you require. It'll give you the mean. Don't forget this is scale data, so the level of central tendency is mean. It'll give you the variance. It'll give you the standard deviation, I think. If not, I'll show you how to calculate that in a second. And then it'll give you a measure of skew, and it will use a measure called kurtosis. Okay, we'll look at skew in a second. Okay, at the moment I won't be able to use that function, but I can go through each of these using just manual methods. If I click on branch 1 here and look down here, look, I get an average of 10.1. So I can write that over here, branch 1, look, 10.1. And branch 2, the average is 7.34. 7.3. Okay, that's the average. And then over here I can type in the maximum and the minimum values. These show me outliers. If I click highlight branch 1 and just go down to here, if it'll let me, and you just need to click on average, maximum, minimum. What else do we have here? Okay. So the average, the maximum in branch 1 is 15 and the minimum is 7. And here in branch 2, the maximum is 12 and the minimum is 3. So we can calculate the range of the two data sets very easily. Just calculate the range as being equals to the maximum minus the minimum. And the range for the branch 1 is 8 and that for 9 for branch 2. And here we can work out the standard deviation. If we type in that cell equals and go over here, look at this drop down menu and choose standard deviation from the list. Standard deviation here, look, I can work out the standard deviation of branch 1, and I can click in there and type in equals the standard deviation of branch 2. And here we have a measure of variance. We don't need all those decimal points, so we can just remove most of those. You ever get that kind of nothing's working feeling? There we go. So manually we can derive all the measures of description that we require. To put these into a graph to show whether there's any skew, we need to create a pivot table for each. Let's create a pivot table for branch 1. Insert, pivot table, click OK. Bring branch 1 values down, and then if you go here, we'll have a count. And then we can simply use a pivot table graph function. And we can copy that if we wish and put it into our descriptors thing over here. So this is a distribution graph for branch 1. And what can we say about this distribution? What would you say? Is that normally distributed, or is it positively or negatively distributed? A normal distribution would expect more values over here, wouldn't it? The curve would go up here and down symmetrically over here. This is the average around about here. So this distribution is negatively distributed, negatively skewed. There were more counts this side of the average. Okay, negatively skewed. And you could do the same with branch 2. And you can present those graphs in your report. Okay, so we need a little bit of text describing using the descriptive analyses here. And if you wish, you can have a graph for each. And you just need to present a little paragraph or two outlining or describing the pattern of data in branch 1 and branch 2. Now let's go back to the question. Use the descriptors function to determine if one branch is attracting more new customers than the other. So on the basis of our descriptions, we have an average of 10.1 new customers for branch 1 compared to 7.3 for branch 2. So here we have evidence that branch 1 is generating more customers than branch 2. Okay, I think this is a very straightforward exercise. There's no high-level analysis. It's all descriptive and very straightforward. Okay, let's go on to number 3. Right, okie dokie. Here we just have a statement and we have to write a little formula. This is very straightforward, but I know some of you have found this a little bit tricky. Let's just have a look at this. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Let me just see if I can do this. Okie dokie. Can you see that? You wish to borrow 20 grand over a 2-year, there's a bit of a spelling mistake there, 2-year period by making 30, sorry. This is very inaccurate. That should be 3-year period. Oh, I know why this is inaccurate, because before I started making the video, I changed the numbers. And what I haven't done is change the text. Okay, so what you read on Moodle should be correct, but it won't be the same figures. I've just changed these, otherwise I'll be doing the exercise for you. So you wish to borrow £20,000 over a 3-year period by making 36 monthly repayments. You can only repay a maximum of, let's make that £800 a month. Using the goal-seek function, calculate the highest interest rate you could afford. The first thing you need to do here is create a little repayment schedule. And we're going to highlight a few cells here, and we're going to have the rate there, the loan value there, the repayment value there, and the installment value there, number of installments. Don't worry if this is complicated. Once I've shown you how to do this, it'll be quite straightforward. I'm not too sure if that's how you spell installments. Let's just say it is for the sake of arguing. And this is our repayments here, okay? So I just need to format these. So rate is going to be a percentage, okay? Loan is going to be the amount we're borrowing, which is in sterling. So our rate, to begin with, we're going to write 0. Okay, the loan is £20,000 and the number of installments is 36. And here I need to work out what the repayment is. This is very straightforward. If I click on that cell and then type in that cell equals, if I go to my drop down list and choose PMT, payment, and if it's not in the list, you can find it using the more functions lookup, PMT, it brings this dialog box up here, okay? So the rate is that cell there divided by 12. And then the number of installments is that cell there. And the value is that cell there. And then I click OK. So it's telling me that my repayment is £555 per month. Let me just, hang on a second, let me just make sure that's correct. Yep, that's correct. Okay, so I've worked out, if I was paying no interest, how much I would be repaying, which is £555. Let me just do that one more time. Okay, I formatted and put the data in. That cell there equals, using the payment function, the rate, which is there, and don't forget to divide it by 12. That's very important. If you don't do that, you make all those cock-ups I made in class, do you remember? And the number of installments is that cell there. The loan value is that cell there. And then I just click. And my repayment with no interest for 3 years on 20 grand is £555. Now, I can pay £800. What interest could I afford if I could pay £800? This is very straightforward, okay? You can click off now, you don't have to click on that cell. What we need to do is to go to data and go to the what if goal seek function over here, okay? It should be there. You don't need to bring this up. It should be on your data tab, what if analysis. Click on there and click on goal seek. Okie dokie. It's asking you to set a cell. We're going to reset this cell here, look, the repayment cell, by clicking it to -800. That's the amount we can afford to pay, a debit of £800. So we're changing this cell here. In my case, this is D8 to £800 negative, which is £800 a month, by changing, look, changing here, the interest, because it's asking you what the interest it would be on £800. So you click on interest, and now watch this cell over here will change automatically, £800. So in this example, which is not the example you're going to use, I could afford to pay 25% interest on 20 grand because I can afford £800 a month. Look, I can repay a maximum of £800 a month. Using the goal seeker generates what the interest would be to force a repayment of £800. So the answer in this case is 25%. I can afford a 25% increase, sorry, 25% repayment on £20,000 over 3 years if I can afford £800 a month. I'll just cancel that and it goes back. Let's do this again, shall we? Go to what if, goal seek, set the repayment cell value to -800 by changing the interest, in other words, changing that cell, the rate, click OK, 25%. So I want to see, for your answer, a little table that looks like this, correctly formatted with the correct values in after you've used the goal seek. Okay. After you've done that, you're going to have to copy and repaste them because as soon as you click off, it reverts back to what the original figures were. So have a duplicate set over here and type them in manually and then delete the calculations. Okie dokie. Rightio. Let's move on to the final item. This is probably the trickiest in terms of getting things absolutely right. Okie dokie. So here we have 4 columns of data: year, population, growth, and migration. All these are scale levels of measurement, and we have 12 rows in total. Okay, present all the data in one graph from these 4 rows. So on the x-axis we're going to have year, that's our category, and our 3 measures of population, growth, and migration. Let me show you what the problem here is. If I highlight all the data and make a graph by going to insert, it's a line graph because we're talking about time, aren't we? Year is time, so it's time series. What's happening here? Why are these 2 rows, these 2 data series at the bottom where I can't see any sort of up and down movement? The reason is because the values of these data points here and these data points here range between 0 and 1400. But notice over here, the value of population is much higher. So if we have all 3 data series on one y-axis measured against one y-axis, this data series seems okay, but unfortunately the values of these data series are so low that they present themselves on the floor of the graph. There's no problem here, this is correct. We just need to tidy things up a little bit. Okay, and this is easily done. If you get this series of data here, which you'll notice is population, what we need to do is put this series of data on another y-axis. And when we do that, this y-axis will automatically adjust. So if we right click, I hope this works, if not it's going to be a bit embarrassing. Format data series, secondary axis, close. You'll now notice that the population is on this axis and these 2 items here are measured against this axis. Now what's happened is this line here is representing the year, okay, and notice the years onto the bottom. If this happens, don't worry, it's quite straightforward. If you to remedy, if you right click on the graph and ask to select data, the horizontal category axis hasn't picked up year. So if you edit there, and then you can just highlight the years as your category axis and they appear there, look. Okay, I'll do that again. Right click on the graph, select data, and the horizontal category axis, just click edit and pick up the year values. Unless it does it automatically. In this version of Excel it doesn't. Okay, and click OK. What you can do now is just tidy the graph up, get rid of the lines if you don't like them. This data series now, which is your year, can be deleted. We don't need that. And now we have the graph nice and tidy. Okay, let's go back to the question. Don't forget to label your axes and provide data values. Okay, there are no data values on this graph at present. What I recommend you do is if you click on the graph and go to layout, you can go to data table here, and if you choose the third option, show data table with legend keys, you'll notice that the data values are put below the graph in a table. If you delete the legend, take that out now, just delete it, the graph will go nice and wide and you'll be able to, sorry, it's just my clock chiming, you'll be able to see everything. Okay, so now we have the data points which the question asks for, and we have the 3 data series as timelines against year on 2 axes. Now what you must do is label the axes. So this axis over here showing the red data series is population. Okay, so if we go click on the graph, go to layout and go to axes titles, and we need to select the secondary vertical axis over here. And we just type in island population. Okay, and that will appear there. You can unbold that if you wish. You don't have to, but if you want to unbold it, you can do. Okay, and here we have to put in an axis title for these 2 data sets, this one, and that goes on the primary y-axis. So layout, axis titles, primary vertical axis, rotated title, and here it's growth and migration. Okie dokie, and that can be brought against the axis and unbolded as well. Okie dokie, that's all you need to do for that question. Produce a graph that shows 3 data series on one graph with the data labels, which are here in the table, and the the 2 y-axes labeled correctly. If you present the graph where there's only one y-axis and the lines are bunched up at the bottom, you won't get full marks for this particular piece. It needs to have 2 axes here, look, very important. Okay, that's all I'm going to show you. When you present your work and load it up to Moodle, I want to see one Excel file, okay? Please do not submit